on this computer. All right, I'm recording now. Let me pull up my slides. If you would like to follow along with these slides, they are they're on the learningvcs.net site, and I'm just recording with Zoom. All right, so I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to open chat, and then we're going to go full screen and turn on the laser pointer. All right, so today we're going to have our first actual CodeHS lesson. We're going to learn about how to do output using the Java programming language. So, first things first, anytime you open a new Java program, you're going to see something that looks very similar to this. It might not look exactly the same every time, but this is what you will see when you open a Java program. We'll say public class my program, open curly brace, public static void main, open parentheses, string, pair of square brackets, args, close the parentheses, open and closed curly braces, and then another closed curly brace. So if you are not familiar with Java, a lot of this will not make any sense, and that is absolutely okay. We will understand what all of this means later down the road, but for right now, it's just important to know that this is necessary for our program to run. So we'll look at a couple of the pieces that we have here. So up here we have the name of the class. Everything in a Java program needs to live inside the curly braces for that program's class. And a class is essentially, we're creating a new type of data. And that is just a very, very high level explanation. We will go into a lot more depth later this semester. Within the CodeHS platform, you will be able to see the name of the file that you're working in. So if you're working in a file called myprogram.java, the name of the class needs to match what comes before the .java in your file name. So you just want to make sure that you don't change this. Usually by default, when CodeHS creates a file for you, it'll make all of this, and the class name will already match the file name. You won't have to make any changes. The next thing we see here is that public static void main. This is a function for those of you who are familiar with programming. This is the main function in Java. Any class needs to have a main function in order to work. Any code that you want to run whenever your program starts needs to go inside the curly braces for your main function. And we can just leave all of that the same as it is. Just public static void main. We'll learn about what all three of those keywords mean later on. But main is the name of the function, and it is automatically run when you run your program. Like I said, it's necessary for your program to run. If you do not have a main function, you will run into this error. It'll say error, main method not found in class my program. Please define the main method as what we saw before. And just a note, the words method and function are interchangeable with one another. They both mean the same thing. So I will use those terms interchangeably. So actually getting into printing, if we want our program to actually produce textual output, we need to use Java's print function or print method. And here's how it's going to look when we do that. We have this is one line that's going to be printed. System.out.print, and then whatever text you want. I'm going to break down this chunk of stuff. Over here on our left, we have our system.out. System is another class that is just built into Java's operations, and it's the class that we use to do both input and output from our programs. So in this example, we're trying to send information from our program out to the screen. So we are using system.out because we're doing output. And like I said, we're going to learn more about what classes are and how they work later. Just for now, know that system exists. Also important to note that system has a capital S. It will not work if you do not have that capitalized S.
Is all of Java case sensitive?
Yes, all of Java is case sensitive. Good question. Thank you. Yeah, basically anything that you create, if you create a variable with certain capitalizations, anytime you want to use that thing, you need to use that same amount of capitalization. All of it's case sensitive. The next thing we see is that print. When we want to actually produce an output to our output console, we're going to use that print function. And this is going to just display information to the output console. And I will show you what that looks like in just a minute. When I finished with the presentation, I'll show you what the CodeHS interface is going to look like for us. And then last, we have the text that we actually want to be printed. And it needs to be enclosed within double quotes, and it needs to be inside of the parentheses for that print. And then at the very end, we have that semicolon. Almost every line of Java we write is going to need that semicolon, just as a heads up. Talked about it a little bit last class, but gotta have it. All right, so a little bit of information about something called string literals. String literals are a sequence of characters that you enclose within double quotes. This is how you create values of the string type. So if you want to make a variable that is a string type and you want to assign it a value, you assign it the value of a string literal. Unlike in Python, strings need to be enclosed in double quotes. You can't use single quotes in Java. That's just something to keep in mind. It's a little bit different from how Python does it. For right now, we're just going to be printing string literals to the console. We'll learn about printing other stuff soon. That will come later. And the characters that you can include in a string literal are any of the characters that you can type in on your keyboard, whether they're numbers, whether they're letters, or whether they're symbols. I realize I have not stopped and let you process. Does anyone have any questions about what I've talked about so far? I realize I've been going a little fast. All good? All right. So that's about string literals. Yep. Okay. There are
Mr. Max,
some.
I have a quick question. Sorry. Are you going to show examples of
We'll
string
absolutely
literals?
show examples. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So there are some special characters that we can add to our string literals, and they're called escape characters. If you remember these from Python, they're going to be the exact same. These let us do some special things, like have our one string literal be on multiple lines, or we can include quotation marks in our output, because if we tried to normally include a quotation mark, it would just close the string literal. So if we want to include a quotation mark in our output, we need to use an escape character. And escape characters are started by using that / symbol. And like any other character, they need to be inside the double quotes to be included in the string literal. Here is a list of the 4 most important string literals that we need to know. \n is going to insert a new line character into your string. So any text that comes after that /n is going to be on the next line of your output. /t is going to insert a tab, and that's useful for aligning things horizontally on your screen. Because if you have text that's different lengths on multiple lines, if you insert a tab, all of it will get to the same exact horizontal location, because tabs have specific column values essentially within your text output. And I'll show an example of what this looks like in a minute. Like I said, if you want to include a quotation mark, you use a backslash and just include that quotation mark. And if you wanted to actually print out a backslash, Java will get confused if you just include one backslash. So you need to say, all right, I want to print a backslash, so I need to escape the backslash so that Java knows, oh, I want to actually print a backslash. I just said backslash like 8 times. So this one's not super useful, but if you wanted to print a backslash, that's how you would do it. All right, and then our last little topic, there are actually, God darn it, the trigger on that is so short. There are actually 2 different printing functions that we can use for output. There is print and there is println. When you use print, the next value that you print onto the console, their next output will be printed on the same line directly after what was printed the first time. When you use println, so no, not logarithms, correct. ln is short for line, so we're going to be printing a line. This is essentially going to insert a new line character, one of those /n's, at the end of your line of output. So the next thing that you print will be printed on the next line. So I have an example of what that looks like. So if I have a system.out.print hello, followed by a system.out.print world, both of these are going to be on the same line. We're going to get hello world. There's not going to be any space in between them. There's nothing else is going to be added except for exactly what was inside of those quotation marks. So if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to have a space in between my hello and world, I would need to have a space either within this string literal or within this string literal. Or I could have a third print in the middle, just printing a space inside of quotes. You can think of a print as keeping the cursor on the same line after it finishes. So we print hello, then our cursor is here, and then we print world, then our cursor is here. In the other version with println or print line, if I print hello, it's going to insert a new line at the end of that output. So it's going to say hello, go to a new line. So now my cursor is here. So whatever I print next is going to be on this line. So then I println world. So I print world, and then I have another line. So whatever I printed next would be printed here. Just the difference between those 2 functions makes sense and how we would want to use them. Yeah, all right. I'm going to, is this the example? It is. All right, so here is an example program from the CodeHS platform. This is what your interface is going to look like when you're writing Java code. On the left side here, print line is just the same as having a print with a /n at the end of it. Correct. So on the left side here, you can see our file. So my file is named helloworld.java. So my class is named hello world to match my file's name. in my main, I am calling my system.out.println hello world. So when I run my code, this box on the right, that is my output console. So when I run my code, this code runs, prints hello world into my output console. Now I can add more code here. If I just add system.out.print hey and system.out.print, let's say /t there. The code, the code on line 3 is going to be there by default. We're not going to have to add any of this when we are generating programs, at least for the time being. It'll be auto-generated for us. So when I print hey and then a /t there, I get my hey and then that tab character and then a space and then there. So everything that was inside of those quotation marks is printed in my output. So if I wanted to go to the next line with this print, I could either use a /n at the end there, or I could make it a print line. And then I'm just going to show you what using the /t is going to look like again. System.out.print line /t ahoy. Make sure we close the parentheses and semicolon. And then I run my code. And here I'm going to delete that. No, there's a space for both. So we can see that both of these are aligned at the same horizontal level. Even though this had the word hey before it, because I used a tab, both of them are getting to that same place. Both of them reach that same horizontal level. So it's very helpful for helping you align stuff. Tab is pretty nice. All right, any other questions about the topic today? Any of that printing stuff? All make sense? All right. Then I will stop my share. I will